Beneath the marble corridors of Vatican City, where centuries of footsteps have worn smooth the stones that bridge heaven and earth, there lies a repository so vast and mysterious that it defies the imagination of even the most curious minds. The Vatican Apostolic Archive contains 53 miles of shelving preserving documentation, preserving important documents for the Church dating to the 8th century. Yet this measurement of linear shelving barely captures the true magnitude of what rests in these hallowed chambers, a collection that stretches not merely through space, but through time itself, carrying within its depths the whispered confessions of kings, the secret deliberations of popes, and the suppressed discoveries that have shaped our understanding of reality. Once known as the Vatican Secret Archive, this institution underwent a symbolic transformation in recent years, yet the essence of its mystery remains untouched. The Vatican Apostolic Archive, formerly known as the Vatican Secret Archive, is the central repository in the Vatican City of all acts promulgated by the Holy See. The name change from secret to apostolic represents more than mere semantics. It reflects a cosmic shift in how humanity approaches the delicate relationship between knowledge and power, between revelation and concealment. Imagine, if you will, standing at the threshold of human consciousness itself, where the accumulated wisdom of nearly 13 centuries beckons from beyond locked doors. These archives represent something far more profound than a mere historical collection. They are the neural pathways of Western civilization, containing not only what was deemed worthy of preservation, but perhaps more significantly, what was considered too dangerous, too revolutionary, or too transformative for the masses to comprehend. The very existence of such restricted access to knowledge forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth about the architecture of human understanding. That information itself has always been a form of currency, and some treasures have been deemed too valuable for open circulation. The metaphor of miles upon miles of forbidden texts invites us to consider the geography of secrecy itself. What landscapes of knowledge remain unmapped in our collective consciousness? What territories of truth have been cordoned off, not necessarily out of malice, but perhaps out of a paternalistic belief that certain revelations require careful custodianship? The Vatican's archives stand as a monument to this ancient tension between enlightenment and responsibility, between the democratic impulse to share knowledge freely and the aristocratic instinct to preserve it for those deemed ready to receive it. The longtime prefect of the Vatican Secret Archive is spilling the beans for the first time. He is revealing some of the secrets he has uncovered in the 45 years he has worked in one of the world's most important and unusual repositories of documents. This recent opening suggests we are witnessing a pivotal moment in the evolution of human consciousness, a time when the gatekeepers of ancient wisdom are beginning to recognize that the preservation of knowledge through secrecy may have served its purpose, and that humanity may now be ready for a different kind of relationship with its own hidden history. As we embark upon this exploration, we must prepare ourselves to encounter not merely facts and historical curiosities, but profound questions about the nature of authority, the responsibility that comes with knowledge, and the ways in which information shapes the very foundations of our reality. The Vatican's vast collection serves as both mirror and mystery, reflecting our deepest assumptions about who deserves to know what, and challenging us to examine the invisible boundaries that continue to shape our understanding of truth itself. Within the labyrinthine depths of these sacred archives, several fundamental principles emerge like constellations in the darkness of human understanding. The first and perhaps most profound theme is the paradox of preservation through concealment, the notion that certain truths require protection not from destruction, but from premature revelation. Like seeds buried deep in winter soil, awaiting the proper season for germination, these documents have been kept in careful stasis, their contents ripening in darkness until humanity might be prepared to receive their full significance. The architecture of secrecy itself reveals another core theme, the delicate balance between transparency and responsibility. The Vatican Apostolic Archive has been gradually opening more of its collections to researchers, with Pope Francis authorizing the opening of archives related to Pope Pius XII's pontificate, suggesting that secrecy is not absolute, but rather operates on a temporal spectrum. This controlled revelation speaks to a deeper understanding of information as a living force that must be released with the same care that a master gardener tends to the timing of harvest. The concept of custodianship emerges as another central pillar supporting this vast edifice of hidden knowledge. The Vatican has positioned itself not merely as owner of these texts, but as their guardian, a role that carries implications far beyond simple possession. This custodial responsibility suggests an almost alchemical understanding of knowledge, where raw information must be refined, contextualized, and prepared before it can safely enter the broader stream of human consciousness. The archives become, in this light, a kind of spiritual laboratory where the volatile elements of truth are carefully contained until they can be safely integrated into the larger body of human understanding. Perhaps most intriguingly, the theme of graduated revelation permeates the entire structure of Vatican secrecy. Rather than operating on a simple binary of hidden versus revealed, the archives function more like the nested chambers of an ancient mystery school, where access is granted based on preparation, scholarship, and perhaps most mysteriously, timing itself. Documents are typically made available to researchers 75 years after the end of a papal reign, suggesting that even time itself serves as a kind of natural filter, allowing the immediate political and personal sensitivities to dissolve before the deeper historical truths can emerge. The final core theme that emerges from contemplation of these hidden texts is the recognition that knowledge and power exist in an eternal dance of mutual transformation. The Vatican's careful control over access reflects an ancient wisdom about the relationship between information and influence, understanding that knowledge is never neutral, but always carries within it the potential to reshape the very foundations of social, spiritual, and political reality. In this sense, the archives represent not merely a collection of documents, but a kind of controlled nuclear reactor of human consciousness, where the fission of revealed truth must be carefully managed to prevent catastrophic disruption of the existing order. Picture, if you will, the mythic figure of Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods and delivered it to humanity, forever altering the balance between divine knowledge and mortal understanding. The Vatican archives embody a similar archetypal tension, yet with a crucial inversion. Here we find not the theft of divine knowledge, but its careful preservation and measured distribution. The Church has assumed the role of the wise elder, who understands that certain flames must be tended carefully, lest they consume rather than illuminate. Within these corridors moves the eternal story of the Library of Alexandria, that legendary repository of ancient wisdom that fell to flames and political upheaval. The Vatican's approach represents humanity's attempt to learn from that catastrophic loss, creating not just one library, but an institution designed to survive the rise and fall of empires. Each document preserved becomes a phoenix egg, carrying within it the potential for resurrection of forgotten truths. The archives themselves function as an ark of consciousness, preserving the seeds of human understanding through the floods of war, revolution, and cultural transformation that periodically wash over our civilization. The symbolism of the locked door appears repeatedly in humanity's spiritual mythology, from the forbidden fruit in Eden to the sealed chambers of Egyptian tombs. The Vatican archives represent perhaps the most sophisticated expression of this archetypal pattern, a conscious recognition that certain knowledge carries transformative power that must be approached with reverence and preparation. The researchers who gain access to these documents undergo a kind of initiation, proving their worthiness not through moral purity, but through scholarly dedication and intellectual maturity. Consider also the narrative of the wise hermit who dwells at the mountaintop, possessing secrets that could transform the world, but sharing them only with those who have demonstrated the courage and wisdom to make the treacherous journey upward. The Vatican has positioned itself as such a hermit on the mountain of human consciousness, its archives serving as both treasure and test. The very difficulty of accessing these materials functions as a kind of natural selection for seekers of truth, ensuring that only those with genuine dedication to understanding will penetrate its mysteries. Perhaps most profoundly, the archives embody the ancient tension between revelation and concealment that runs through all mystical traditions. Like the veiled mysteries of ancient Greece or the hidden teachings of esoteric schools, the Vatican's approach suggests an understanding that truth must be unveiled gradually, layer by layer, as consciousness expands to accommodate increasingly profound revelations. The 54 miles of shelving become a metaphor for the infinite depths of reality itself, suggesting that no matter how much we uncover, there will always be deeper chambers waiting to be explored, further mysteries beckoning from beyond the next locked door. In our personal lives, the archive's approach to knowledge custodianship invites us to examine our own relationship with information consumption and sharing. Just as the Vatican carefully screens researchers before granting access to sensitive materials, we might develop more discerning practices around what knowledge we seek, how we prepare ourselves to receive challenging truths, and how we determine when we are ready to engage with information that has the power to fundamentally alter our worldview. The archives remind us that not all knowledge is meant for immediate consumption. Some truths require preparation, contemplation, and the development of adequate frameworks for integration. The professional and academic implications extend far beyond religious scholarship. The Vatican's methodology of preservation and controlled access offers insights for modern institutions grappling with the balance between transparency and responsibility. Universities, research institutions, and even technology companies might learn from this ancient model of information stewardship, developing protocols that ensure sensitive discoveries are released in ways that maximize benefit while minimizing potential harm. The archives demonstrate that the question is not simply whether to share knowledge, but how to create structures that honor both the truth itself and the readiness of those who would receive it. In our increasingly polarized world, the Vatican's approach suggests an alternative to the binary thinking that dominates contemporary discourse around secrecy and transparency. Rather than demanding immediate and total disclosure or accepting complete opacity, the archives point toward a more nuanced understanding of how information moves through society. This middle path recognizes that timing, context, and preparation are crucial elements in the responsible transmission of transformative knowledge. The archives also offer a powerful metaphor for personal growth and self-discovery. Just as researchers must demonstrate their qualifications and genuine scholarly intent before gaining access to the Vatican's most sensitive materials, we might approach our own inner exploration with similar reverence and preparation. The locked chambers of our unconscious minds, our suppressed memories, and our deepest truths may require the same kind of patient, respectful approach that characterizes serious archival research. The Vatican's model suggests that the most profound revelations cannot be forced or demanded, but must be approached through dedication, maturity, and authentic readiness to be transformed by what we discover. As we draw our exploration to its culmination, we find ourselves standing not at an ending, but at a threshold, much like those fortunate scholars who are granted passage through the heavy doors of the Vatican archives for the first time. The 54 miles of shelving that wind through the heart of Vatican City serve as more than a repository of historical documents. They represent a living meditation on the relationship between knowledge and wisdom, between information and transformation, between the hunger for truth and the responsibility that comes with its possession. The evolution of the archive from secret to apostolic signals a profound shift in humanity's collective consciousness, a movement away from the hoarding of knowledge toward a more mature understanding of shared stewardship. The Vatican has been gradually opening more of its collections to researchers, suggesting that we are witnessing the dawn of a new era in which ancient guardians of wisdom recognize that their role is not to permanently conceal, but to carefully cultivate the conditions under which transformative knowledge can be safely integrated into human understanding. This transformational moment invites each of us to examine the secret archives within our own consciousness. What knowledge have we kept locked away from ourselves out of fear, conditioning, or a sense of unworthiness? What truths have we deemed too dangerous or too revolutionary for our own contemplation? The Vatican's model challenges us to become both researcher and archivist of our own experience, developing the scholarly discipline and spiritual maturity necessary to explore the forbidden texts of our own suppressed wisdom. The call that emerges from this exploration is not one of rebellion against secrecy, but of preparation for revelation. If we wish to access the deepest chambers of knowledge, whether in the Vatican archives or in the infinite library of existence itself, we must cultivate the qualities that mark the serious scholar: patience, reverence, intellectual humility, and the courage to be transformed by what we discover. The locked doors serve not as barriers to exclude us, but as invitations to develop the keys of understanding that will grant us entrance. In this light, the Vatican archives become a mirror reflecting our own relationship with mystery and revelation. They remind us that the most profound truths are not hidden from us as punishment, but are waiting patiently for us to develop the consciousness capable of receiving them without being overwhelmed or destroyed by their power. The 54 miles of forbidden texts ultimately point us toward the infinite archives of wisdom that surround us always, accessible not through privileged access or institutional permission, but through the patient cultivation of awareness, reverence, and genuine readiness to be transformed by the truth we seek. The Vatican's secret, then, is not what it hides, but what it reveals about the sacred relationship between seeker and truth, a relationship that requires not just curiosity, but wisdom, not just desire for knowledge, but preparation for the responsibility that knowledge brings. We have come to the end of this, hopefully helpful explanation of the Vatican's 54 miles of forbidden texts. If you enjoyed this enlightenment, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel.